blebe. What's going on, everybody? Republic Cinema here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new Yolopark Transformers TF1 B-127. Now, since Yolopark made model kits of Transformers from Transformers Rise of the Beasts, they have went their way to make Transformers from Transformers 1. But starting up with the main protagonist, that being this guy, Elita 1, Orion Pax, and D16. But for now, we're going to be taking a look at B-127, or Bumblebee. But real quick, as I would like to talk about the character. So, B-127 was somewhat a breath of fresh air. For the longest time in the live-action movies, Bumblebee could not talk, as he would have to use his radio for communication. I mean, if you count the Bumblebee movie and some parts of Transformers The Last Night and even Transformers 2007, Bumblebee does talk, but he doesn't talk as much as he does in Transformers 1. He's given a different voice and a different voice actor, that being Keegan-Michael Key, who you may know as Toad from Mario, or that one crazy teacher that kept on mispronouncing the names of his students. And I must say, he does a pretty good job for being the voice actor for Bumblebee. So far for Transformers movies, B-127 in Transformers 1 has got to be the most comedic. He's also got a cool design too. Now that's enough talk about the character, we all love him. It's time to talk about the figure version of this character made by Yolopark. But before we do so, let's take a quick look at the packaging. On the front is this nice CG artwork of B-127, as well for his alt mode, which kind of resembles the Bumblebee movie alt mode. And of course the rest is all words, names, and logos. On the top is the main cast of Transformers 1, just upside down. On the bottom is boring. On one side is another CGI artwork of Bumblebee, and on the other side is basically the same thing. But then you turn to the back and you get a little more info on the scale of these characters, or at least from pre-cog to post-cog to final form. The last two are a hint for something next year. But then on the bottom over here you get info on what Bumblebee comes with in the packaging, not just the figure himself, but a bunch of accessories, and I guess the instructions to assemble the figure together. And then one last feature of the packaging is that this whole front piece opens up to reveal all the parts for B-127. It was totally unnecessary, but cool at the same time. And then if you look up over here, there's also this. Not gonna lie, Yolopark does a better job with product shots than Hasbro does with their Studio Series toys. But now I think it's time we get to the unboxing. And here we have B-127 somewhat out of the packaging, just not out of whatever this type of bubble plastic wrap-ish thing is called. That's not what it's called. But anyways, in the box is also the instruction manual to build Bumblebee and a whole bunch of extra stuff right here. But most importantly is the instruction manual. Is it just me, or does the instructions infer that the assembly isn't too hard? Because it looks like it. And here we have the Yolopark B-127 fully assembled. As you can see, Yolopark absolutely nailed the design of the character from the movie. I mean, it looks just like how he looked in the movie. Half the time it's hard to tell whether this is real or animated. Okay, maybe that's not true. The painting and sculpting is pretty good. I really like the type of gold they decided to go for. I mean, that gold looks really nice on Bumblebee. It makes you wonder, is this guy B-127 or simply just Goldbug? I mean, if he had a blue face, then it would have probably been Goldbug. But other than the gold paint on this figure is some black and a few smidges of silver, and of course the blue visor on the head, which I believe is made out of clear translucent blue plastic. Also, that head sculpt looks really nice. The arms look nice, the chest is clean, and of course his legs are also done right. I would like to point out, however, that I did get an identical copy of this piece right here, which is supposed to have a different alignment of slots to tab onto these tabs right here, but unfortunately I got something else. But it's okay, I improvised. Just make sure that your copy doesn't come with an identical piece that messes up the build. Also, here we are in the back, and Bumblebee does have a backpack, which is totally accurate. And yeah, that's all I had to say for the details. Now, for the quality on this guy, surprisingly not too bad. I've had other Yolopark figures where some of the joints were too tight or too loose. This guy's just fine. I mean, the arms are a little slightly loosened, but it's not like loose to the point where they flop around. The joints on the legs are a little tighter than the arms, but nothing too stiff. However, I do have a minor complaint, is that sometimes you mess around with this figure and the shoulder pads find themselves removed from the shoulder. Well, not like that. But they also tab into this rectangular, square-ish type of tab, which looks a little more prone to break if not careful with this product. But other than that, he's pretty great. But anyways, I think it's time we move on to accessories. So to start off, I have chosen the folded in hands as the primary hands for B-127. However, they are missing those golden pads on the top of the hands. That's when his Energon blades come in. And there you have Yolopark B-127 equipped with his knife hands. By the way, who else found it hilarious the way B-127 discovered his swords? He may or may not use them a little too much in the movie. He also comes with 2 more pairs of hands, that being the relaxed hands, which could serve as a hands up pose for no reason in particular, and then the other pair of hands are the trigger fingers, which would have been useful if I had the Ion Blaster from Yolopark 1 or Orion packs. I mean, I have Yolopark, I haven't gotten to her yet. I just started with this guy. But there is an alternative, as Bumblebee does come with only 1 Ion Blaster instead of 2. And am I the only one who thinks this looks a little awkward? Dare I say inaccurate? It's not a problem. At least it comes with a cool Mecha Life gimmick, where it goes forward and backwards, and moves a few pieces upwards and downwards. This gun piece also works for the other arm. Also, one more thing about the pair of wrists, just in case you want those extra golden pieces, you'll have to take them apart from another pair of hands and slap them on to the fists. Apparently, they decided not to go too crazy on these parts. And then one last accessory is an extra headpiece, which is a bit of a pain to swap out, so I'm just going to skip that part. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for accessories. There was relatively a lot due to the different pairs of the hands. It does kind of suck that he doesn't come with an extra arm cannon attachment, just in case you wanted to have this figure dual wielded. At least his accessories didn't come in separately, kind of like the Yolopark Rise of the Beasts Bumblebee. And hey, at least he has his dual wielded knife hands, which is something. But anyways, I think now it's time we move on to articulation. Starting off, double ball joint at the head, which allows for an extended ball joint movement, since there is an extra neck piece, which is also controlled by another ball joint, of course, which also allows the head to move up and down and rotate 360. Butterfly joint at the shoulder, thanks to a ball joint, which allows the shoulder to move up and down, and also allows for a full rotation at the arm. There is also another swivel joint as well. The shoulder pad moves out, which allows for an extended bend at the shoulder, biceps swivel, double bend at the elbow, ball joint at the wrist, which allows the wrist to move up and down and swivel, ball joint at the chest, waist swivel, legs can spread, leg can move forward, can also move backwards, thigh swivel, double bend at the knee. The back of the leg also has this piece that moves up and down. And then for the foot, there is of course a swivel, an up and a down. This black piece also moves independently up and down. The foot can also move from side to side. And lastly, the very front of the foot can move up and down. And if I forgot any other point of articulation, then moving on. Overall, the articulation is pretty great. Again, this is a Yolopark figure, so you best expect a plethora of movements for this guy. And if you're a guy who likes to pose his figures a lot, well, this figure's just for you. But anyways, with the articulation out of the way, we can move on to size comparison. Starting off, here he is next to the Yolopark Rise of the Beasts Bumblebee, the Yolopark Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime, and of course the Yolopark Rise of the Beasts Scourge. Moving on to some other TF1 toys, here he is next to the Studio Series Optimus Prime, recently reviewed the Studio Series Megatron. Moving on to some Prime changers, here he is next to Orion Pax, Alpha Trion, the Quintesson High Commander, Sentinel Prime, B-127. To throw in some other Bumblebees, here he is next to the G1 Bumblebee, which I believe is the inspiration for this design, the Studio Series Bumblebee movie B-127, the Studio Series Off-Road Bumblebee, the Studio Series Volkswagen Bumblebee, which I believe might get an updated Studio Series figure eventually next year. Maybe not. It might be the Camaro version. We'll have to find out Friday. The Studio Series Rise of the Beasts Bumblebee, the mainline Rise of the Beasts Bumblebee, and lastly, here he is next to the Masterpiece MPM Bumblebee movie Bumblebee, which is a figure I hope to review soon. But anyways, here's Yolopark B-127 alongside all the other TF1 figures I own. Unfortunately, the mainline toys were a huge letdown, and I suppose all of us thought the Rise of the Beasts mainline was bad because of how lackluster the figures are, but this just reached a whole new low. Unless we're counting the mainline for the Bumblebee movie. That one didn't even try. Personally, I think they should have just focused on the mainline toys during the year of the film's release and focus on the Studio Series figures the following year. As I am certain during that time, they would of course have enough accurate concept art that was used during the movie to make as Studio Series figures, but obviously that wouldn't have happened. Oh well, I guess it was quite a missed opportunity to throw in D16 and Elita 1 into the main line, but since the main line is said and done, I guess all we have to cheer us up are the Yolopark TF1 figures and the Studio Series TF1 figures. Can't wait for those next year. And also for the Studio Series B-127, which won't be as movie accurate as the Yolopark B-127, but still will look great. As at least that figure will come with more weapon accessories, I think. I don't know if the swords are detachable. But anyways, let me know in the comments if you guys are excited for the Studio Series B-127. Now, unfortunately, since this is a Yolopark action figure, it does not transform and is mainly used for assembly and superposability. So unfortunately, there's no transformation in this guy. Although, just imagine if there was. Then this figure would have cost more. But now I think it's time we conclude the review, as I think that's pretty much all I had to say for this figure. Overall, once again, a pretty great Yolopark figure. I definitely recommend you pick this figure up. If you are looking to pick this figure up, I don't think he's available on Amazon as of now, but I believe he is available at the Yolopark website, where he costs a little less than $37, but then there is shipping to add to as well, which I think leads to this figure costing a grand total of $37 as well on that website. If you do pick him up, he may not transform, but I promise you, he is pretty great. Now, they did actually make a cogless version of B-127, but he is on the smaller scale of Yolopark, which is totally accurate. He was slightly smaller in his cogless form than he was in his cogged form. And again, if it does happen, I am curious to see how Hasbro would scale the cogless miners in the Studio Series. Honestly, if they transform into little boxes in the core class, it's totally fine. However, much like the tall TF1 Deluxes, they would have to be relatively tall core class TF1 figures. But again, they're cogless miners, they don't transform into anything, so the chances of them actually making an appearance into the Studio Series would be a small chance. But be sure to let me know in the comments if you would like to see the cogless miners make it into the Studio Series. And with that being said, if you like what you saw in this video, be sure to slam that like button, share this with your friends as well, turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss another video. Let me know how I did in this video, and most importantly, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Teo!